The idea that any part of the earth can be owned is crazy, a profound misconception. The concept of ownership has fueled centuries of economic activity, colonization, environmental exploitation, all with little regard for the planet's natural limits. We're now at a critical point facing environmental crisis, climate change, biodiversity loss, the collapse of ecosystems, clear symptoms of our unsustainable relationship with the natural world. Let's put this into perspective. Earth formed approximately 4.5 billion years ago, while modern humans have existed for a mere 300,000 years. To illustrate how short that time frame is, if Earth's history was compressed into a 24-hour day, humanity would have emerged in the final second before midnight. And yet, if we turn to traditional economics textbooks, the world's portrayed as if it began with humanity. Everything is framed around human needs and markets, with nature often seen as merely a resource to be exploited. Contemporary environmental economics challenges this human-centered view. It urges us to rethink our relationship with the planet, demanding a new economic model, but also touching on moral, political, even spiritual dimensions of how we should live. However, I'm skeptical of attempts to fit the environment into the market system as we know it. What we really need is something more radical, rethinking what progress means, consuming less and restructuring our economies. Neoliberal economics values only what can be bought and sold on human-created markets. It underplays externalities such as pollution and habitat destruction, which aren't accounted for in market transactions but nonetheless affect future generations. This failure to properly account for environmental damage is a symptom of humanity's belief that natural resources are infinite and that owning them confers the right to exploit them indefinitely. When I studied economics in the 1980s, Small is Beautiful by E.F. Schumacher was on the reading list. At this time, I didn't realise how radical its message was. Schumacher critiqued the focus of economics on growth and consumption. He argued that this ignores the finite limits of the planet. He actually proposed what he called Buddhist economics, which prioritises well-being, ecological balance and sustainability over material growth. His ideas align closely with modern environmental economics, which questions the obsession with growth and challenges the unsustainable model that drives most capitalist economies. One of the central challenges in environmental economics is determining how to value the environment. Traditional economics assigns value based on supply, demand and market prices, but this model doesn't work well for environmental goods like clean air, biodiversity, stable climates, resources that benefit everyone but cannot be privately owned or easily traded in markets. Schumacher introduced the concept of natural capital, arguing that Earth's resources should be seen as forms of capital that, once depleted, cannot be easily replaced. This concept has since evolved into natural capital accounting, an attempt to quantify the economic value of ecosystems and the services they provide, like clean water, air and biodiversity. The UK's Office for National Statistics has even developed frameworks for natural capital accounting, which does seem like a step in the right direction. However, I've remained somewhat sceptical. The danger in assigning monetary value to things like clean air or biodiversity is that we risk commodifying them, reducing their worth to a market price. Such a simplification doesn't capture the full importance of these resources, nor does it account for their irreplaceability. Worse, it may lead to decisions that prioritise short-term economic gains over long-term sustainability. One popular approach to environmental issues is to create market-based solutions like carbon pricing, which assigns a financial cost to carbon emissions. It incentivises companies to reduce their environmental impact. It's clear that such schemes have forced businesses to consider their environmental footprint, but I do worry that this is just capitalism finding a way to turn environmental issues into profit-generating opportunities. Rather than being a genuine shift in how we value the environment, it's capitalism colonizing the problem to keep the system intact. Laws and regulations such as mandatory environmental standards and emission limits offer a more reliable and direct method of addressing environmental damage. However, these two often operate within the same market-based framework that values short-term profit over long-term sustainability. There is an interesting debate between the idea of green growth and degrowth. The advocates of green growth believe that technological innovation and market incentives can decouple economic growth from environmental degradation. In other words, the economic aim is to still keep growing, but in a way that doesn't harm the environment. To me, this again represents capitalism trying to co-opt environmentalism, making just enough concessions to stay viable from a PR perspective while continuing to exploit natural resources. On the other hand, proponents of degrowth argue that endless economic growth is fundamentally incompatible with environmental sustainability. Degrowth calls for a radical re-evaluation of what progress means, focusing on well-being, on ecological balance, on consuming less, rather than simply ever-growing GDP. Degrowth is based on the idea that true sustainability will require us to live within the planet's means, not just find ways to keep consuming at the same rate with green technology. I think that there's also a profound spiritual dimension to this debate. It's important to be clear on terminology here. When I refer to spirituality, I don't mean it in a religious sense. Rather, I'm talking about something metaphysical and immaterial, an acknowledgement of the profound interconnectedness that exists in the Earth's natural systems, the magic of the Earth as a whole, where the sum of its parts transcends any individual component. This sense of wonder and interconnection is as real as the physical elements of nature, even if it can't be directly measured or quantified. And if I'm right about this, the absurdity of buying and selling individual parts of the Earth, regardless of their place in the system, is really highlighted. I often make the point that we really need a new, radical economic model. Environmental economics offers us many possibilities in thinking about a new economics. It offers a powerful critique of traditional economic systems that treat the Earth as a commodity. If we integrate environmental costs into economic models and advocate for sustainable, equitable policies, it offers a pathway towards a more just relationship with the planet. But this critique must go deeper than just tweaking the current system. We need to question the very foundations of neoliberal economics and capitalism, which has driven us to this point. The real challenge is not how to fit nature into our economic models, but how to fundamentally rethink our consumption patterns, our growth models, and what we value as a society. This requires not just environmental accounting, but a radical shift in how we live, one that prioritizes sustainability, equity and respect for the natural world. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd be really grateful for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.